just want to say thank you. Hallelujah, hallelujah. When they said our bodies were sick, we just say thank you, Lord. I just want to thank In the book of Genesis, chapter 9, we'll begin reading in verse 8. Good to have all the visitors with us, all of our members. God bless you. God bless you. Beginning at verse 8 of Genesis chapter 9, I'll be reading from the New American Standard Version, and it reads as follows. Then God spoke to Noah and to his sons with him, saying, Now behold, I myself do establish my covenant with you and with your descendants after you, and with every living creature that is with you, the birds, the cattle, and every beast of the earth with you. Of all that comes out of the ark, even every beast of the earth, I establish my covenant with you. And all flesh shall never again be cut off by the water of the flood. Neither shall there again be a flood to destroy the earth. God said, This is the sign of the covenant which I am making between me and you, and every living creature that is with you for all successive generations. I set my bow in the cloud, and it shall be a sign of a covenant between me and the earth. It shall come about when I bring a cloud over the earth, and the bow will be seen in the cloud, and I will remember my covenant which is between me and you and every living creature of all flesh. And never again shall the water become a flood to destroy all flesh. Verse 16. When the bow was in the cloud, then I will look upon it to remember the everlasting covenant between God and every living creature of all flesh that is on the earth. And God said to Noah, This is a sign of the covenant which I have established between me and all flesh that is in the earth. Now the sons of Noah who came out of the ark were Shem and Ham and Japheth. And Ham was the father of Canaan. And the Lord has blessed his word. For the next few moments, friends, I will share with you from the subject, When I Choose to Remember. When I choose to remember. It was in the Sunday, May the 23rd of 1982 edition of the Philadelphia Inquirer, in the family, home, and fashion section, that an article was written entitled, The Church That Went to Market and Stayed. It was on that day, 35 years ago, that it hit newsstands. And in this article, the reporter, the writer, Sue Chastain, highlighted a local independent church. This church, which had bucked conventional wisdom and embarked on a journey of faith as they had purchased the Mount Airy shopping bag. And they began worshiping in this shopping bag. Yet, here, 35 years after the writing of this article, we who are known as the Christian Church in Philadelphia, we continue to worship God, the Lord, with one voice, with one heart, with one love. Yes, here we stand 35 years later. We sit in these pristine surroundings, cognizant of what the Lord is doing in the present, but always remembering that the God of the present is also the God of the past. And thanks be to God, He is the God of the future. For I would submit to you today that when we choose to remember, there is power in our remembering. This idea, this understanding, to be able to bring to one's mind an awareness of something or someone that we have seen or known or experienced in the past. Here we are in church on this Sunday, but many of us would like to be at the beach, and we remember the smell of the ocean. We remember the echo of the canyon, the breezes of the mountain. We are able to remember the birds in the morning or the hush of the night. We are able to remember true love in all of its facets. We are able to recollect loss and despair that never seems too far behind to be able to remember loved ones that have gone on to glory. Great memories of tales of days yonder. There is power in the ability to remember. One of the most difficult and crippling portions of whether it be Alzheimer's or whether it be a disease that attacks the mind is it begins to steal memories away, memories that have kept us safe, memories that have kept us close, memories that have brought us comfort. And that is some of the fear and the sadness when we see our loved ones who no longer have the capacity to recall the memories that have kept them going in a generation. On this day, on the cusp of Memorial Day, this is what we are invited to do. We are invited to remember those who have sacrificed and given their lives in the armed services on behalf of these United States of America. We are called to remember. Yet, as I began to think about the sermon this week, as I began to wonder about what we are going to do tomorrow, there are many barbecues taking place, but I think I'm going to cook a little meat for me and my own, amen? It'll save me a little gas because I don't have to go anywhere. It'll save me a little time because I don't have to dress up real nice. I can go outside in a t-shirt and shorts and fire it up, amen, and eat a rib sometime. But as I was thinking about my grandfather who served in World War II, as I was thinking about my uncles that served in Vietnam, as I was thinking about all those who were in your families and those friends in your purview, I was thinking about those who went into war with their eyes wide open, and they recall what Dwight Eisenhower said, that he hated war as only someone could hate war who has seen the ills of war, of seeing young men die and young women sacrifice. I tell you, as I began to think of those things and bring back to my remembrance, I began to remember that God is still good. Because there are some things that you can remember that don't bring a smile to your face. There are some things that you can remember that will make you feel bad when you think about the loved one who did you wrong, when you think about the relationship that you wanted to be in, but it doesn't seem as if the other person wanted to be in. When you remember the losses in our lives and the job that we don't have any longer, or the hopes that have been dashed, when we remember what Langston Hughes said, that what happens to a dream deferred, does it shrivel up like a raisin in the sun? There are some memories that you can remember that will not bring a smile to your face, but I posit to you this day, my brothers and my sisters, that if you find yourself in those spaces, I ask that you remember that God is still good. I ask you to remember that God has still made a way, that God has still raised you up. If they said that the body will never recover from the illness that you have right now, you just remember that God has seen you through previous battles and He has brought you over. If they say you won't be healed today, you remind them that you were healed yesterday. If they say that you won't make it one more step, then you tell them you haven't known me all my life because the Lord has kept me when everyone else left me. There is power in remembering, to be able to transport to places of learning and growing and mending, to be able to remember what is going on in our spaces. We are called to remember. That is why I brought us and harkened back to 35 years ago, because we look around, Deaconess Ingram, and we see all these nice things, and we ask ourselves the question, what is God going to do in our midst? Are we going to grow in a certain way? What is the Lord doing in 2017? And I invite us back just to where we had been before, when we had to carry out the registers and it still said produce on the wall. I invite us to return to the place where we first met the Lord, and we can recall, Deaconess Bailey, that God is still good, that God is still making a way, that God is still saving lives, that God is still healing bodies, that God is still doing exceedingly abundantly more than we can ask or think, that God is the joy and the strength of my life. He moves all pain, misery, and strife, because He promised to keep me and never to leave me. And I found out, Sister Jack,
Jackie, he has never fallen short of his word. So I just take a moment, I've got to fast and pray, say it in a narrow way, and I want to keep my life clean every day. Because Sister Pearl, I want to go with him when he comes back. I've come too far and we ain't turning back. God is. You recall in the book of Genesis, you recall what happened. That after the fall in Eden, the people lost sight of who they were and who they were called to be. And it often happens that way with various ones that we know. When life gives us a blessing, they turn into a new person. Oh, you know who I'm talking about. The folks that used to speak to you in the Acme, but now they got a Mercedes, they don't know who you are. Oh, you know what I'm talking about. Those who you've been knowing for a long time, and yet when they see you now, they don't have anything to say. Matter of fact, it happened to me last night. So Erica and I, the girls were at a sleepover, and it was a blessed situation. And Erica wasn't feeling that well, but I said, baby, the kids aren't here. We have to go out. We got to do something. Embrace this time. So we go out and we grab a bite to eat, and we walk and get a little ice cream, and lo and behold, behind the ice cream stand, there's a girl I went to high school with. I have not seen her in 20 years. And I began to ask myself the question, am I going to speak, or am I just going to kind of go to the side? Because I didn't really want to have a big conversation about all the things that folks talk about. But lo and behold, Erica said, well, yeah, you should say something. Say hi. So I say hi. And then she looks away. And then I say, well, now you really want me to show out because you said I'm bad. And so then I say, hey, and I say her whole government name. Because we've been in school for a long time together. But you understand what I'm saying? This idea that says folks will talk to you, but no, things are new. They don't have anything to say to you. That's what happened after Eden. Folks started feeling themselves a little bit. They said, who are we to serve God? God isn't even around. Matter of fact, we will do what is right in our own eyes. And you see that now in the world in which we live. Folks are doing what they think is right in their own eyes. There's no longer a point of reference in this postmodern world that we live in. There's no longer this basis foundation that says, even if you don't go to church, even if you don't believe in Christ, there was still a base understanding that says, treat people as you want to be treated. This is how you engage a relationship. But no, now it's this idea of saying I have rights and I will do what I want regardless of how that affects those around me. That is the situation of Genesis. And God got beside himself. God actually said to himself, enough with this, and he began to send the flood. And as I told the children today, he sent the flood and he told Noah, build the ark, but yet there was no water. And the people said, look how silly this man is for building the ark. Look how silly he is, but there's no water. And there's some of you that resonates with you right now, that you have been called by God to do something, to go somewhere, to treat someone a certain way, to forgive that person that hurt you. And folks are looking at you like you're crazy. Why are you doing this? But see, God has called us to the work. And if God has called us to the work, then we are more than equipped to accomplish the task. Well, the story played out, Brother Will, just like God said it would. Noah built the ark and he brought in the animals 2 by 2. And here in the ark with his family and the 2 by 2, the rain came and the rain stopped and the water began to go down. And here creation has been made new. Creation has now been reset and Noah has come out of the flood. But you see a God who says to himself, and even in his God self nature, that maybe I shouldn't have done that. It's amazing to me, you see a God who presents himself in a humble state. Because God could have kept doing whatever God wanted to do because he is God. Yet after the flood, he says, I will not do that again. That is not a good thing that I have done. And so you see in the text now in verse 9, He says, behold, I myself will establish my covenant with you and your descendants after you, and with every living creature that is with you, the birds, the cattle, every beast of the earth with you, of all that comes out of the ark. I will establish this covenant. And here is the covenant. All flesh shall never again be cut off by the water of the flood. So here we see the promise. As we are here to remember, we remember that God made a promise to Noah, and not just to Noah, but for every living creature. Everyone say it with me. Every living creature. It's amazing to me. My youngest daughter, Ava, she'll go outside, she'll see an ant, she'll run right up to the ant and step on it. And she said, I don't want the ant around me, Daddy. And I say to her, why are you killing the ant and he lives outside? Because every living creature was given this covenant with God. And what was the covenant? That I will never again destroy the earth by water. Never again will I take away all your homes. Never again will I do what I did just 40 days ago. Never again, my brothers and my sisters, we have an opportunity to remember the promises of God. This is but yet one promise that God has given us. But some of us have to bring back to our memory, what has God promised us in this life today? Some folks will take the text and they'll say, well, God has promised us in the prosperity gospel. We'll take hold and they'll say, now I'm promised to have all of this money. Well, God never promised to have all the money, but God did say, I will supply all of your needs according to his riches and glory. He did say that. God did say that you will be the head and not the tail. He did say that. He did promise you that you will be all that I want you to be, because greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. This day I invite you to remember the promises of God. And God isn't like some that will seek to make a promise but have no intention of following through on the promise. Oh, hallelujah. Oh, you know some folks that right now, they stand up before they get married and they say, I promise that I will forsake all others besides you. But they have no intention of forsaking all others for the person in front of them. That's why they got secret cell phones. Oh, I'm telling it all now. They got the burners that they don't want to give up. Some of the greatest arguments in marital homes have been because someone wants to go through somebody's phone. Well, if you ain't got nothing to hide, give up the password. Y'all tell your friends that when you leave here, my pastor said. Standing on the promises of God. Not men, not women, not boys, not girls, but standing on the promises of God. Yes. For when we remember that God has promised us so much in our lives, it gives us the understanding and the wherewithal and the courage to move forward one more day. But God just doesn't make arbitrary promises. He said, I will give you a sign of the promise. What was the promise? That I will never again destroy the earth by water. And I will give you the promise. So every time you look up and see the rainbow, you will be reminded that it isn't just for show. In Ezekiel chapter 1 verse 28, he says, at the appearance of the rainbow in the clouds on a rainy day, so was the appearance of the surrounding radiance. All through the scriptures, we will see this reference to the rainbow and how majestic it is and how beautiful it is. And God says, I'm not just giving you the rainbow because you want something else nice to look at. Because God has already given us so much beauty all around us. I tell you, there's folks that give up all their money to buy something at the beach, and it's amazing to me that God made the beach. That God made the mountains that folks pay to climb up. That God made the canyons that folks walk around in. That God gave us all of the beauty of nature. If you wake up early enough, you'll be able to see the sun rise in the east. And you'll be able to see just as it goes up, you'll see the various colors. That is God at work. But God didn't say, I want to give you something else to look at pretty. pretty because I've given you enough to look at that's pretty. You know what I'm talking about. When Denzel walks past, you say, the Lord makes good eye candy. You know what I'm talking about. This idea that says God has given us things to look at, but the rainbow was not one of them. The rainbow was a sign of the promise. Y'all still thinking about Denzel? Let me see if I can make it plain for a few generations. It might have been Denzel, it could have been Billy D. Someone that when they walk past you say, oh, I don't mind looking at you. The Lord has given much beauty, but there was a sign of the promise, the rainbow as a pledge that God would never again destroy the earth. And you have seen signs in your lives as well. When you ask yourself, what is my tomorrow going to bring? You say, God, you promised that you would do these things, but right at that moment, you're not sure if it's really going to come to pass. And then right at that moment, when you were about to give in, there was a knock on the door that someone was able to come and to bless you. Just when you thought you wouldn't make it one more day, there was something that took place in your life, a moment of clarity, a moment of understanding when God showed up when you least expected him to show up with a sign of the promise that he has not left you nor forsaken you, that God is still working in your life, that God is still making a way, that God is still God. That is what I began to think of as Memorial Day began to approach. Yes, there were those who sacrificed greatly, but I remember that God is still God. There are folks that would have you to believe that God isn't doing what God has done in years past, but God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And those of us that were in our Revelation Bible study, we were able to see that John said that the God who was and the God that is and the God that is to come is the same God. So it says that he made a promise. And he said, I'll give you a sign of the promise. But now the question is, well, who did he give the promise to? And this is something that we must remember, my brothers and sisters. Who did God give the promise to? Well, the text was very clear. It said, I'm giving the promise to all of the people. And see, some folks will take that and take advantage of others and say, I have a promise from God, but you don't have a promise from God. Well, God said, I'm including everybody in this promise that right now. I'm including the black man and the white man. I'm including the Latino and the Asian. I'm including the woman and the man, the boy and the girl, the old and the young. I am including all of people into this understanding of the promise that I will not destroy the earth again. But it didn't stop there. He said, I am going to include in the promise all of the living creatures. I'm going to include the lions and the tigers and the bears. Oh my, I'm going to include the birds and the fish. I'm going to include all living generations. I'll include the plants and the birds. I'll include the flowers and the trees. Everything that is living, I will include in the promise because I am God by myself. It is an everlasting promise from generation to generation.
Yes, hallelujah. Thank you, Lord.
Thank you.
You've been promised something great by God. And now it's not just the promise of what he told Noah that I'll never destroy the earth by water again.
Yes.
But you also have been given a promise that I will love you. And I'll love you enough that I will cleanse you of all unrighteousness. God made a promise. A promise that say, those who are weak and heavy laden, you come to me and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon me and learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart. You've been given a promise that though your sins may be as scarlet, I will make them white as snow. You've been given a promise that if you just wait for a while, the Holy Spirit shall come and it will empower you to do more than you ever thought you could do. You've been given a promise that God will never leave you nor forsake you, that I am the God who healeth thee. You have been given a promise.
Yes.
Yes.
So when you don't know what life will be, when you find yourself wrestling with feelings of inadequacy and sadness, Sister Jackie, you just remember that God has made a promise. Sister Vanetta, you remember that God has made a promise. Sister Linda, you believe that God has made a promise. And God is not like man that he should tell a lie. But what he said he will do will surely come to pass because he is God all by himself. There is power in remembering. So you remember that you've been made to be beautifully and wonderfully by God. You remember that you were made in the image of God. You remember that you are not a mistake, but yet you are a masterpiece made by God. And God will be certain to bless you in the days to come. You just remember that God is. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
Well, my brothers and sisters, he made a promise to Noah. He made a promise to all of the animals. He made a promise to all of the trees. He made a promise to all of creation. And he made a promise to you too. That if you come, he won't remind you of everything that you got wrong. He'll remind you of everything that you did right. He made a promise that if you come,
Thank you, Lord.
that there's a heaven that I'll prepare for you.
Yes.
And if I go to prepare it, then I will come again. He made a promise
Yes.
that said, I love you more than you can even love yourself. And I was willing to prove it by sending my son to die for you. Is there anyone today that's willing to take hold of the promise that God has given you? To remember that he wants the best for you. Remember that he wants to love you. That he wants to save you. That he wants to encourage you along the way. Is there anyone willing to take God up on his word? That if you pray, I will hear you. And I will send my word and I'll heal you. Is there anyone who's willing to take God up on the promise? That God, I've been around searching, but I want to be in a place where people will love me and encourage me. Are you willing to take God up on the promise? That where he has led, you will follow. Are you willing to take God up on the promise? That today is not the end, but that God holds all of our tomorrows.
Yes.
The doors of the church are open. I invite you to come. Not because I'm so great, but because we serve a great God. I invite you to come. Not because I can heal your hurt, but because I know a Lord who can. I invite you to come, to join the church, to receive Jesus Christ, to come for prayer. Never mind what anyone else will say. They called Noah crazy, but when the rain started, they sure enough wanted to get in the boat. I tell you, let us stand. Is there one who will come today, who will give their lives to Jesus today, that will join the church today? Hey, deacons, why don't y'all spread out, man. Smile at them and lift your hands towards them. And I want you to, is there one today who will try God? Let's sing together with the choir.